Good evening, Wayne Westland family. I'm Dr. Townsell, Assistant Superintendent. The network that I'm Assistant Superintendent over is Climate, Culture, and Social Emotional Learning. I would like to welcome everybody here to the social media forum. As you know, like I know, social media is only evolving. It's not going anywhere. People can be anonymous all day. I think this forum is not only timely, but it's definitely needed. As an educator, I embrace electronics, I embrace social media, because the reality is our world is technologically advanced, and it will continue to be so. We're in the digital age. I think it's important for us to educate not only our families, but everyone in our community on the best ways to be safe while using social media. Parents, it's very important to check the privacy settings on your young people's cellular phones or tablets. Because the reality is, while we're asleep, especially our more savvy kids, they're probably up to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on their social networking site, or on their tablet, or on their internet. So I'm super excited for this opportunity. Before I turn the microphone over to Ms. Minner, I would love to give some huge shout outs to some people and organizations that helped make this a possibility. So I'd like to thank the Blue Cross for completely sponsoring this event and providing the dinner and prizes. We'd like to also thank Chef Tony and the Culinary Arts Program. Somebody give a huge shout out to the Culinary Arts Program. They're representing our Career Tech High School, one of the top career tech programs in the state of Michigan, probably in the country, in my opinion. And a huge shout out to Amanda Dibus and Maria Mitter, our community and family engagement supervisors for the coordinating this event. There are supervisors for Wayne Westland, the ladies right here, give them a huge shout out. Now, if you are on social media, I encourage you to follow any and all things Wayne Westland. Even on Facebook, Wayne Westland Schools, Twitter, Wayne Westland Schools, any platform that you're on, look up, search Wayne Westland Schools, and please ensure that you follow them. Here's the reality. Moving forward, we're going to have a heavy social media presence, especially with the addition of the department that I support, being Climate, Culture, and Social Emotional Learning. I do SEL videos, motivational videos that will help our young people, teachers, and family members master the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. And I'm gonna tell you what those are right now, and I hope that you go onto our social media site and watch the video so you can get a more comprehensive understanding. But those 5 core competencies, the first one is self-awareness, which is extremely hard to do. The second one is self-management. The third one is social awareness. The fourth one is relationship skills. And last, good decision making. That is the approach that we're having as a district, in addition to curriculum and instruction, in addition to keeping our young people safe. We're going to educate the whole child by focusing on those core competencies of social emotional learning. So it's very exciting to see everybody here. Nice turnout, the food is delicious. Without further ado, Ms. Miller.
Good evening, everybody. I am excited to have you all here tonight. We are working in partnership with the Wayne Youth Assistance and City of Westland Youth Assistance programs that are going to be facilitating the sessions as you leave here.
That was real quick. My name is Carrie Vella. I'm a prevention specialist at Wayne Youth Services. My 2 coworkers that are here is Melissa Ketcher and Allison Smith. They're going to be helping with the presentation tonight and then passing out some information. And if you guys have any questions, definitely we'll have time at the end for you guys to ask them. Before we get started, what I really want to stress is that in no way, shape, or form is this presentation to say that social media is bad. I think social media is a great tool for us as adults to be able to communicate with families, friends, and especially in a lot of our professions, we need social media to be able to communicate with each other about what's going on and things like that. But We are going to talk about how to monitor your youth's social media better and how to help keep them safe, because that's our number one priority, is make sure that our youth are safe at all times. And as you all, I'm sure, are very well aware, our kids are on their phones, tablets, computers, any electronic devices 24/7, right? So this by no means is going to be an exhaustive list of all the things that need to be taught about social media. We had to kind of cut it down into an hour, but I hope that we hit on all the important points that you guys are hoping to get from tonight. So first, basically just kind of talking about the internet and youth. I mean, it's drastically changed the way that we have learned to communicate with each other. The internet's great, right? I mean, anytime we need to find somewhere to go, toss it into Google Maps, tells us where to go. If we're hungry and we want something to eat, we can just type in, Mexican food, and it pulls up the closest Mexican restaurant or something like that. So it's really great. It's a great way for us to gain knowledge, and it's a great way for us to keep in touch with people, like I said before. But also, with everything good, unfortunately, sometimes comes the bad things as well, too. So our youth are exposed, unfortunately, to cyberbullying, inappropriate material, online predators. Our youth sometimes are revealing too much information about themselves. With the usage of internet and social media, there's been some mental health concerns, including anxiety and depression. There's been an increase in suicide, and we've been seeing a lack of sleep amongst our youth. Most of our kids probably have some sort of cell phone, and if they have a cell phone, most of the time it's a smartphone. Very few kids, I think, would probably even know what to do if we showed them a flip phone or the slide-up phones or the old phones like we all had to use when we first got cell phones. But teens spend an average of 9 hours a day on their phones. I think it might even be more than that, because a lot of times we know our kids are texting during the middle of the night, they're texting during school, they're texting at the dinner table, they're texting when they're taking a shower, getting ready for school. And 50% of teens feel they are addicted to their mobile devices. They've actually been doing studies where teens are showing addictions similar to those who would be addicted to drugs and alcohol as being addicted to their smartphones or their cell phones. 1 in 3 16 to 17-year-olds text while driving. And teens are using social media, which includes music apps, so a lot of them are listening to music as well, a third of their day. So our youth are really connected to their devices. This is the way that they're learning how to socialize with their friends. This is the way they're talking to their friends about what they're doing that night, what they're going to do over the weekend. A lot of the classrooms have Google Classrooms, where the students are actually having to submit their homework and their paper and that kind of stuff through their phones. So they're connected to them on a very regular basis. Unfortunately, since our kids have been using cell phones and social media so much, we have noticed some alarming trends in the effects on mental health of our youth. Teenagers' brains are actually being affected by constant cell phone usage, or what they're calling media multitasking. So switching from all the different sites that they're on, constantly going back and forth, checking text messages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. Studies have linked chronic cell phone use to a reduction in neurotransmitters, which result in poor attention, emotional processing, and decision making. We know that, unfortunately, our brains do not stop developing until we're about the age of 25. So when teens are around the 14, 15, 16-year-old age range, the front part of their brains is the last part that is developing, which is the part that talks about their attention spans, their emotional connections, their decision-making processes, hence why most teenagers or youth are very impulsive. They don't think about their decisions before they're making them. Using too much cell phone or media multitasking is also linked to higher levels of insomnia and impulsivity. We're noticing that more and more youth are having issues with sleeping with no medical reason backed behind it. And also, teens and youth have a hyperactive reward system. So they do something, they love it, they want to keep doing it. This allowed teens to become addicted to things quicker than adults. So as adults, we use our phones a lot as we all know, but we're not becoming addicted to them as much as the youth are, because their reward system is a lot more active than ours. We've also been seeing a negative trend in teen mental health and rising smartphone use. So as the sales of smartphones have gone up, so has the rise in teen mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. It's almost correlating exactly, and there's no other known reason why these conditions in teens and our youth are happening, except for the fact that there's the access to these smartphones. Social media usage is linked to producing dopamine. So dopamine is naturally produced in our brains, and it's what makes us feel good. It's what happens when we eat things that we like, when we laugh, when we do activities that we enjoy. So when the teens or the youth are on social media, they're getting rushes of dopamine. And they have found studies that the amount of dopamine that is being produced when our youth are using their cell phones and social media is very similar to the way dopamine is released when drugs or alcohol are consumed by people. So it's a very, very strong addiction that the youth are having. And when we try to take away their social media or their cell phones, I'm sure a lot of you parents, kids, they lose their minds. They're like, my phone? You're going to take my phone away? What if my friend needs to tell me what happened? What am I going to do? They're actually having strong feelings of fatigue, irritability, anxiety when they're being separated from their phones. That's why we see them on them a lot, or trying to sneak them. Maybe they've been taken away and locked up somewhere, and the kids are trying to find ways to get them. We've also seen a rise in teen anxiety and depression due to comparing photos and other youth happiness. I think as adults, we see that sometimes too, right? Maybe we post a picture and we're wondering, how many likes am I going to get? Or someone posts something and we don't get any likes, and we're like, hey, wait a minute, why is no one liking my photo? And then you start having thoughts of, does it not look good? Do I not look okay? What's going on? Well, teens are doing the same thing too. So they're posting things, and if people aren't liking them enough or commenting on them or retweeting them or things like that, it's causing a lot of anxiety and contributing to that depression as well too. There's also a study done that shows that youth who spend 5 or more hours on smartphones or electronic devices were 48% more likely to suffer at least one suicide-related outcome, including feeling hopelessness or seriously considering suicide. So what this means is not that almost half of the kids who do this feel suicidal or say they're going to commit suicide, but have a lot of feelings that can be associated with that. So when we hear teens talk about feeling worthless, hopeless, people wouldn't care if I weren't here, those types of things. So we're seeing a lot of negative effects on how our kids' brains are actually functioning just based on actually using a smartphone and connecting to social media sites. So after, thinking about all these mental health issues that are going on, we found it was extremely important to kind of talk about these statistics so you as parents or grandparents or caregivers understand why our youth feel the need to constantly be on the phone, that it's actually changing the chemistry of their brain. And also to be aware that if you start noticing your youth seeming more depressed or constantly upset or things like that, that it may be things that are going on their cell phone that you may want to be taking a look at. What are they posting on Snapchat? What are they posting on Twitter? What are they posting on Facebook? What types of things are they posting that could possibly contribute to any of these negative effects on their mental health? I think being a teenager and being a kid in today's world is a lot harder than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I think social media really escalates that for our kids. I think there's a lot of negative things that get posted, especially when we talk about the youth comparing their happiness to that of others. They see all these people out at a fun party and they didn't get invited, and they start feeling sad about that. Or maybe they post a picture of themselves and someone makes negative comments about the way that they look, or make a comment about the way that they're dressed. Or, we've seen a lot of instances where something embarrassing happens to someone at school, and what's the first thing that everyone does? They pull out their phone, they want to videotape it. Or there's a fight at school. What's the first thing everyone wants to do? Not run for help or help your friend. Ooh, I'm going to videotape this and I'm going to post it on Snapchat and see how many people like it, and, things like that. So there's a lot of negative things happening to our youth today because of smartphones and social media. So that's why it's so important that we talk about this. And, we're really glad that all of you guys have showed up, because this is a really important topic that obviously is affecting our youth. So next, kind of want to just talk about what are the apps that kids are using. Again, I could have probably made 1,000 slides on how many apps there are out today. I'm sure you guys know if you go through your App Store or your Google Play where you can download stuff on an Android device, you probably see that there isn't literally an app for everything, right? There's an app to remind you to stand up. You've been sitting too long, you need to stand. I have a meditation app on my phone. It tells me so many times a day, you need to think about sunshine and flowers and butterflies, you know. So I'm gonna talk about the most popular ones that our teens and youth are using, and then also talk about some of the apps that we feel are the most alarming that you should be aware of and be checking your kids' phones. And before I kind of go any further, I think it should be implied, but unfortunately our kids feel that cell phones and tablets and all this stuff are just a necessity. Like mom and dad, you give me water, shelter, food, and a smartphone. I need this to survive. What we like to tell our kids is, you know, smartphones, electronics, those are privileges, and privileges need to be earned. And obviously, if there's a lot of issues going on with them at school and at home and things, definitely a reason, you know, to be checking in even more so as to what is going on, you know, with our teens. A lot of times when we talk to our youth, they'll say things like, well, it's my phone. I paid for it. Well, but you live under mom and dad's roof and they pay for everything else, so technically it's theirs. And it's within all of your parents, guardian, grandparents' rights that you check your child's phone. Because we think sometimes, I see kids come into our office and I think there's no way this sweet little baby is gonna have anything on their phone. And then unfortunately we see some things and it's pretty alarming. So I encourage all of you guys to really have a conversation after tonight with your youth, kind of sit down and talk about maybe some new guidelines going forward on what you're gonna do to keep them safe. And it's not because you want to be snooping, or a lot of kids are like, my parent, they just want to know what I'm up to and what I'm doing, and they're so nosy. No, it's your right as a parent to make sure that your child is safe and to make sure that they're using social media appropriately. So the most popular ones our kids are using, the number one, I think that just about every single kid I talk to, is Snapchat. For those of you who don't know what Snapchat is basically, it's the app, and if you've all seen with the funny filters, you can make yourself look like a puppy dog. It adds funny little pictures. You can add music to it, things like that. So it was designed as an app to send and post pictures and videos with your friends. The main component of Snapchat is that you set a timer on how long you want your picture or video to be shown to someone that you send them. So it could be shown for 8 seconds and then it goes away and the person that you sent it to has no capabilities of seeing it again. But that's where the problem lies, is that the youth think, well, I can send something and maybe it's going to be inappropriate, but it disappears in 8 seconds, so I can't get in trouble. Well, as we all know, anything, once it's posted and a picture's been taken, it never really goes away, right? It's always kind of stored somewhere, whether it's in the cloud or part of when you download Snapchat. If you guys have ever downloaded an app, right? It tells you like, read our policies and our privacy settings, whatever. And what do we all do? We just click accept, because who has time to read 100 pages of a lot of legal stuff? But actually, Snapchat owns your photos. And they, at any time, can retrieve those photos if they need to. So the police departments have a very easy time contacting Snapchat and figuring out what did you post and what was deleted. So the kids have this vision that it disappears. There's a lot of things that other kids can do. You can screenshot the picture. So someone can send me a picture that only lasts 4 seconds, but if I'm quick enough, I can screenshot it. And now I have that picture and I can do whatever I want with it. I can resend it. I can keep it for my own personal use. I can alter it and do whatever with it. So it always gives that illusion that it's not really there. And Snapchat is probably one of the more common apps that are being used. You know, it can be a great way to send funny things back and forth, but unfortunately we notice a lot of kids are using it to send inappropriate photos because they have that feeling that it's disappearing, but it's not. Yes?
Can they ban these apps? I mean, what's the benefit of it?
Yeah, I mean, when we think about it,
A certain age,
right. Yeah, so a lot of the apps say, most of them you have to be at least 13 years old, but they just ask you to put in a birth date. They're not asking for a photo ID or your birth certificate, right? Yeah.
Every school is doing it for like 5 a week.
Right, yep, and a lot of them were being done on Snapchat because, again, the kids were thinking it disappears. Or you can create a fake account. It doesn't have to be associated with anything. You can create an email address. You sign up for Snapchat. It's not linked to anything of yours, and then it has the concept of going away. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering how kids, and even my son had a Facebook page I didn't even know about. He was
Right.
Like, just turned 14. I'm like, how'd you get a Facebook page?
Yeah, so all they have to do is put in their birth date, and kids, it's funny because kids are so bad at math sometimes, right? Like, Mom, I cannot do this, but I can figure out what year I need to be born to be old enough to get a Snapchat account, right? So they're smart, a lot more, a lot smarter than we give them credit for, but that's the problem. There's no strict verification on that. Or it's like, click here if you're over 18. Click, right? One of the other popular apps our kids are using is called Kik. So it's a messaging app. It's very similar to how we text back and forth, except you don't need the person's cell phone number. They just have a username. So it can be like Wayne High for life or whatever. That's your username, and they can share it with friends back and forth. They can add people into conversations. They can message back and forth. But Kik has built-in apps and web content. So Kik can only be used on a smartphone. You cannot download it on a computer. You can't have a Kik app on a computer. It has built-in apps and web content that would be filtered if you had a home computer. So if you had a monitoring device on your computer, if you had like an antivirus, that kind of stuff in your computer, it would be blocking a lot of things that people can send back and forth in Kik. And the part about Kik that sometimes can be dangerous is that once you log out, so all you have to do is click log out, it erases every single one of your messages, and you can't go back and get them. So if some inappropriate talk was going on, or maybe someone was bullying or sending threatening messages to someone, and someone was like, oh, I heard this, let me see your phone. All they got to do is hit boop, log out, and everything's erased. No, just on yours. So the other person would still have access to it, but on your phone it would be erased. Yeah. The other one, Instagram. It was designed for an app to share photos, videos, and messages. A lot of our kids love to use it. For those of you who aren't familiar with Instagram, if you've ever heard, hashtag and then a certain phrase, it's Instagram kind of coined that. So you can hashtag certain phrases, and then if anyone's been to a wedding recently, that's the new trend, right? Everyone has a hashtag for their wedding, and then everyone who takes pictures at the weddings can go onto Instagram and see all the pictures that everyone that night took. That seems like an appropriate, fun use for Instagram, but unfortunately, it is not always used like that. A big problem with Instagram is that, again, anyone can sign up. You just have to click that you're 13 years age or older, which any kid is intelligent enough to just click the box that says, yes, I am. They're noticing that it's very easy for youth to access pornographic sites and pornographic stars' accounts, so they can follow them, and they're posting very racy and inappropriate pictures, and it's very easy for youth to find these and to see them. It's also very easy for youth to create fake accounts. We have a lot of issues with kids coming to us saying, somebody created a fake Instagram account, it's my picture, and they're spreading rumors about me through the school or saying that I'm saying other things to people, but it's not me. Well, it's very easy to find a picture of somebody, right? I mean, they can go on their regular Instagram page, find a picture of them. All they have to do is copy it or screenshot it, and then just create this account. There's not a lot of verification purposes that go through to make sure that if I say I'm Carrie, that you're verifying to make sure it's me. A lot of times you just have to have an email address. Well, it's easy. I mean, anyone can create any kind of email address through Gmail, Yahoo, any of those. There's also a messaging component to Instagram that a lot of youth use to message back and forth to people that sometimes parents don't know. Well, I follow my youth on Instagram, so I know that they're posting appropriate things, but I don't know that there's a messaging component to it, and they're sending messages. And that's not something you can see unless you're actually accessing their account. And also, too, it's not always our youth who are doing things that aren't right or making poor choices in what they're posting. There are a lot of predators out there, and they are looking to prey on innocent teens and youth who maybe aren't as savvy as to why certain people might be messaging them. Or, it's always a good self-esteem booster when I got 4,000 people following me. I don't even know 4,000 people. I mean, if you look at your youth, how many people are following them and how many people they follow, it's so many people, and they probably don't even know half of those, and they're posting a picture, maybe they go to school here and they're posting a picture with a hashtag, Franklin Middle School, whatever. Well, now this person sees their picture, knows they go to Franklin, and based on what else they're posting, might know things about them. And they could walk up to Franklin and say, hey, Sarah, your mom, she told me I need to come pick you up after school. I live right down, I work with your mom. Yeah, Sarah, yeah, we know each other. And Sarah's like, okay, cool. I didn't know, sure. They seem to know my face and know who I am. So yeah, it must be great. So those are other, and with all of these, right, with Snapchat, Kik, Instagram, I mean, youth can accept anybody, and anyone can be anyone, because when we're behind a screen, it's hard to verify who we are. Another one that a lot of our youth are using is Twitter. Twitter is, a news and social networking app on which users post and interact with messages known as tweets. So you might hear your kids talking about tweeting. You can retweet what people post, things like that. And again, this is another site that unfortunately Open allows pornography to be posted. It sometimes takes them a while to find the pictures, their security department, before they get taken down, but by that time they've been retweeted so many times that a lot of people have had access to them. And trolling and bullying are very common. It's very easy when kids are behind a screen or behind a tablet or behind a phone to say things to people that they wouldn't normally say face to face, and especially if they're using them under fake accounts. The next set of apps are apps that we felt were the most concerning ones that we absolutely want you to check to make sure if these apps are on your phone or on your youth phone. There is a list that has some different ones that are not on here just because there were so many, and every day they change. We do social media presentations with a lot of our kids, and they'll come to me and they'll say, Miss Carrie, that's for old people. Kids don't use that anymore, right? Like Facebook, our kids are like, we don't use Facebook. That's for old people. And I'm like, excuse me, I don't think I'm that old. One of the most concerning ones is called Saraha. It has actually been banned to download, but if you had it previously, you're still allowed to use it. So what it is it allows users to send anonymous direct messages to their friends. So basically what happens is the kids or youth or adults will post a question that may say like, what is your favorite thing about me? And in a perfect world, our kids would say, you're kind, you're smart, you're beautiful, you have the best personality. But unfortunately, what was happening is kids were posting some pretty mean things about people. And it's anonymous. So there's not even a screen name or a login or anything that's attached to that. So obviously, kids are a lot more bolder, right? They're behind a screen, but now they're behind an anonymous screen. So there's no way to find out. You don't have to have the app to make a comment. So you would download the Saraha and then post it to one of your other social media accounts so the other person didn't have to have one. It was actually called the #1 cyberbullying app, and they went through, there was a few people there was a woman whose son actually had committed suicide because of something that was written on this, and it was taken down to download. But again, it might still be on your youth's phone, so definitely something to be on the lookout for. The next one is called Omegle. It's a live streaming video and chat app for strangers. So basically what it is you can connect to people in your area with whatever screen name someone chooses to use, and you can connect to them, and it automatically connects a video feed to them. You have no idea who's behind that camera and what they are videoing or showing at that point. And unfortunately, a lot of predators like to use this app, and many of them are standing nude in front of a camera, and then our youth are connecting with them, and that's the first thing that they're seeing. This is a very dangerous app. A lot of kids like to use it because, as you all know, if you have an iPhone, you can FaceTime, but if you don't have an iPhone and someone else does, you need to download some different type of live streaming, back and forth if you want to chat in a face-to-face sort of sense with your friends. They use these, but unfortunately, kids are accepting random people that we don't know what's going on behind them. Musical.ly is another popular one. This is a video app that was made for video creation, messaging, and live broadcasting. A lot of the kids use it for popular songs that are out, and they can create almost like a music video to it. So it seems harmless and fun, but unfortunately, This is, and if any of you do social media, you might have seen a lot of stories recently about the Musical.ly app that, again, inappropriate or pornographic hashtags can happen. So you can hashtag certain things, and they're posting very inappropriate things for common hashtags that someone might be downloading. So, for instance, let's say young girl loves Justin Timberlake. She wants to see some Musical.lys of Justin Timberlake, and someone hashtagged Justin Timberlake, and it was pornographic photos. Not of him, but just of other things that, to entice people to go to it or to look at it because they know this is something that's going to happen. The next app is called Yubo or Yellow. The name was switched because it used to be called Yellow, and then it got a kind of like a bad rap, so they decided to change the name. It was created for kids to make new friends, so it was marketed to teenagers as a way to make new friends. Unfortunately, it became very similar to a dating app for kids, where they can swipe right or left on people based on their looks on whether you like that person or not. So it's teaching our kids that we should base our friends just off of what they look like, not what they like or what they are interested in or anything like that. And it allows you, again, to meet strangers, and it's based off your geographic location. So if you sign in and you live in Wayne, Michigan, it's going to connect you to all these other people that live in Wayne. So, very scary. Yes?
That's kind of like that Snapchat. My son has it, then I didn't know I had a map and show right.
Yep. So Snapchat has a location attached to it. And on the main page, if you take your fingers like this to shrink it down, it actually will show your specific location and all your friends' location. And it does have a setting on it to go to it's called ghost mode, so no one can see your location. But I mean, it actually pinpoints, like if you look on the map, and if I had Snapchat open right now, it would pinpoint that I'm at Franklin Middle School. It's very accurate where you're at, which is also very scary because, like we said, kids accept everybody, right? Because they want so many people to follow them and like their stuff, and they're seeing where everybody's at all the time. Another app is called House Party. Again, this is another one of those group video chat apps. It can be private, so you can start a private chat with someone. You can have it live, so you can have your camera feed on live. You can connect with other users and friends. You can also, again, chat with strangers. And we don't know what's behind that video, what is behind that phone that someone is going to film when we connect to them. Screenshots can also be taken during the chat. So sometimes kids think, well, I'm not going to send a picture because that can stay on the phone forever. But if I do a video, when I disconnect the video, it goes away. But unfortunately, people can screenshot that as well. Another very, very concerning app that I personally have had a lot of youth come and talk about is called Ask FM. Again, this is another one of those apps where you can choose to be anonymous and ask each other questions back and forth. It's very similar to the Saraha. So, and again, not surprising that it's been linked to one of the most severe forms of bullying. Because again, it's an anonymous way to ask questions back and forth to each other. To be honest, I'm not quite sure what the original purpose of that app was to ask, because I guess I'm the type of person that if I have a question, I'm just going to ask you. Like, do you like my outfit today? Yes or no? I don't need an anonymous 800 responses to that. One of the other apps is called Wishbone. So this was originally designed as an app to choose between two different options. So it could be like, hey, what's better, chicken or steak? And then people get to vote back and forth, what's better? Well, unfortunately, it has turned into, hey, let's compare kids. Who's better, Sarah or Julie? Pick and comment. And then people actually get to look and see who's commented more, who likes different people more. It also allows you to rate them on a scale. So you can rate their looks. Oh, yeah, she's a solid 2. She's an 8. And we wonder why youth suicide rates are up, depression rates are up, anxiety rates are up. Because kids are actually being compared on scales and rated against each other. Again, an online bullying and a way to sexualize messaging and things like that. Another one that I've heard quite a lot about lately is the calculator app. I'm using it for school, Mom. I got my calculator. Unfortunately, someone decided to develop an app that looks like the calculator app on your phone. And we've probably all seen that little icon, right? That just has like a plus minus equal X on it. But what this app is it looks like a calculator, but it actually functions as a secret photo vault. So you can store private photos in there that you have to put a password in to access. So it's a way for people to store and send private photos back and forth. And as parents, we would scroll through our kids' phones and think calculator. I wouldn't even think twice about that. I mean, I wouldn't need to know what my kid, was adding or multiplying today. So this is a place to store inappropriate photos. So again, this was just a very short list of the most concerning apps. There are more printed on the sheet that we have provided for you guys. But again, this changes daily. New apps are coming out. They're changing names. I would honestly encourage you to look at your child's phones. And if you see an app and you're not sure what it is, Google it, put it in there, see what it is, check it out. Or sometimes what I like to do when the kids come to me and they say, oh, Miss Carrie, there's this new app and it's called such and such and da-da-da-da-da, and it's so great and it's not bad at all, I promise. Well, I'll go home and I'll download it and kind of play around with it for a while. And after a while, I'm like, oh, these little sneaky kids. This is so bad. I encourage you as parents too to have the same apps. If you feel comfortable that they're having these apps, have the same apps as them and follow them. Request to be their friend or whatever it is. They're all different terms for, you can be my Snap friend. You can follow me on Twitter. You can, whatever. But encourage you to follow them. And this is just a couple tips on how you can monitor what your youth is doing. And I know it's super overwhelming. I'm a parent myself, and my kids are younger, and they still pull things over on me. They're downloading stuff, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. They're like, no, Mom, it's totally fine. 2 seconds later, I hear them watching a video, and there's a swear word. And I'm like, oh, no. We need to monitor this. So what you can do is approve all the apps your youth is downloading. So typically, if you're on a family plan of some sort with your youth, you can create the master Apple iPhone account, or if you have an Android, the Google Play account, and your youth phone is a secondary account on it. And every time they want to download something, it will send you a notification that you have to approve before your youth can download it, even if it's free. So not just for paid apps, but even if it's free. So that way you can look at it and say, yay or nay to this, or maybe have a conversation like, hey, I saw you wanted to download this app. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Or Google it and see what it does. Turning location off on your apps. This is super, super huge. A lot of the apps keep the location on, even if we've turned the location off on our phones. A lot of their privacy settings are different, and it will turn location on for that app only. So you may think my use location is off or my location is off, but on this app it's on. So when we're posting photos, we're posting a status, we're posting things, as we all know, every time we take a picture, it's attached to a location. We may not see that location or know it, but hackers and predators and things like that are able to find that information a lot quicker than we know. There's monitoring software that you can download. Some cost some money, some are free. One of them that I found is called Teen Safe, and you download this onto your youth's phone, and you can see your child's location, who's in their contacts, who they're texting, what they're texting. If they've deleted a text, you can still see the deleted text, and you can see the activity on social media. So my opinion as a parent, I would rather spend $5-10 a month and know that, my youth is being safe and I can check on things. And then that way you're not constantly having to be like, hand over the phone, let me look, let me scroll through it, because it can be overwhelming. You guys are busy, you have a lot going on. So I would encourage you to kind of look through and see if there's any monitoring software that you think would be beneficial for you and your family. There are parental controls for cell phones. So I just listed the 4 major cell phone carriers. But obviously, if you have a different cell phone carrier, all you need to do is call and ask them what their parental controls are. So AT&T has something called Smart Limits. So you can set limits on text messages. You can put time restrictions on them. So you could say, hey, at 9 p.m., shut it down. I want the Wi-Fi off. I want the texting capability gone. you know, if you're a parent that maybe works overnight or something and you want them to at least be able to have access to call or receive phone calls in, that's completely fine. That costs $5 a month. And let's be real, cell phone bills are so expensive these days. It's like, to me, I'm like, I don't even know. Sometimes I'm getting charged these weird fees. It's just another $5. T-Mobile has something called family allowances. So parents are sent a text message when youth has met their limit of how many texts they can send. I think you guys would all be amazed if you called your cell phone carrier and asked them to tell you how many text messages are sent from your youth's phone in a day. I did that one time with a 14-year-old. She had sent 21,000 text messages in 24 hours. And she said, and I didn't even have my phone turned on for like 4 hours at school. You would be amazed. I'm telling you, these kids, they're so quick, they're so fast, they're sending so many, they're receiving so many. This can also limit phone use in a moving car. So it will detect when your child is in a car. So if you're worried about them texting and driving, where it will deactivate their texting capabilities while they're driving. It also has a GPS feature on it, so you can check your child's location at any time. Like, oh, I'm going to check to make sure they really showed up for school today. Oh, yeah, there they are. They're at Franklin Middle School, sure thing. Or, they're at 7-Eleven and it's 10 o'clock. Verizon has something called content filtering. So it can keep youth from seeing inappropriate content. So that will help them from receiving inappropriate images to and from, things like that. They also have a plan called Family Base. So it sets limits on the texts and phone calls. It can lock your phones at certain time. So again, nighttime, because we found, in previous studies that our kids are experiencing a lot of insomnia and lack of sleep. And I'm sure any teacher, principal, administrator will tell you that when kids come in the morning, they look exhausted. And when you ask them why, I was on my phone all night. There was just so much drama going on. Joey and Sarah broke up and I needed to know every single detail all night. That one can also, there's a family locator option for Verizon, and I'm pretty sure most of the phones have them as well too, where you can track location on your phones. So you can set up like all your family's phones. You can, on the iPhones, there's a Find My Friend or Find My Family app that you can download as well. Sprint, you can set appropriate times again for phone usage. You can deactivate camera controls. So you could maybe, in all honesty, if we have a cell phone because we want our youth to be able to get in contact with us if we need to pick them up after school or if an emergency happens, they don't need their cameras. They will survive, I promise. And parents can also receive text messages on child's location. So every time your child switches locations, it can send you a text message like, hey, Sue just arrived at, such and such address. Okay, they're home now. Or, oh, they said they were going to Joey's house, and sure enough, they're there. Another thing to do is make sure your child doesn't have multiple phones. We have found so many kids who, their parents are like, here, give me your phone. And they pull their phone out. And then they pull another phone out. And they pull another phone out. Where did you get these from? Well, most of the kids, they need the phone for Wi-Fi purposes. They don't want to call anybody. Who calls anybody anymore, right? So it's easy. You can have a cell phone that isn't connected to a service, but connects to Wi-Fi. So checking to make sure your child doesn't have multiple phones, and also making sure they don't have multiple accounts. A lot of our kids like to have, I have a Facebook account for my family, and then I have a Facebook account for my friends. Or I have a Twitter account that my family follows, and like my teachers and all that stuff. And then I have one that my friends follow. So, checking to make sure that if you're following one of their accounts, they shouldn't have more than one, but if they do, you're following all of them. So next I'm going to kind of pass it over to Missy, and she's going to talk a little bit about what else can we do to kind of help with the cell phone addiction and how we can kind of reconnect as a family.
Okay, so before I get started, just out of curiosity, raise of hands, how many of you have kids in elementary school? Okay, how many are middle school kids? And how many high school? Okay, so it's a really good mix. So this is really impacting families, right? All ages and us included. So we have to be parents. We have to set the rules. And the thing that's really difficult about that for us is that we don't have a precedent for it. This is new to us as parents. So we don't know, is it 1 hour a day? Is it 2 hours a day? Should they not have it at school? I work evenings, so they need to have it for this, you know. So you just kind of have to figure out what is going to work for your family, and you know, it's about balance. You have to allow for some of it. Like Carrie said at the beginning, you know, there's a lot of good that comes of it. There's a lot of good uses for it. So you have to find a balance. You know, like 1 hour after school, no screens whatsoever. You need to be outside. Throw them outside. They're going to be mad, but that's fine. They can be mad at you. So it's kind of our job just to figure out what that rule is. Me personally, for my kids, it kind of varies per day. It's, you know, 45 minutes after school if they want to relax. Yes, that's fine. You can go on your screens for 45 minutes. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. If they were on it a lot yesterday, I'm like, no screens whatsoever today. And that's just something that you just have to kind of be flexible with, see what works. When they throw fits, that does not mean that you were wrong. Sometimes we think that because they're mad at us, we kind of second guess our decisions as parents, and they can be mad, and it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. And then this is a billboard. I don't know if any of you have seen this billboard before driving on the highway over the past couple of years, but it kind of spoke to me. So it was about eating fruits and veggies. You know, it was just a public service campaign that they learn from watching you. And the same thing goes for our media usage. So how many times do you guys go home from work and you're just like, leave me alone. I just want to like sit on my phone and do nothing for a few minutes, or watch TV for a few minutes, or go check my own Facebook. I notice that when I'm doing that, my kids are like, I want to see your phone. I want to see your phone, or I want to use my tablet. So we have to set those examples, and we have to set limits for ourselves as well. Okay. Because they really do learn from watching us, and we're teaching them what this looks like. Where am I at? Okay. So the first set of questions here that I have is taken from a website called NetSmarts that has a lot of resources, and that resource list is on the second to last page of your packet here. So they have a lot of different resources for us for parenting and handling kids and teaching them how to use social media and internet appropriately. So one thing that is really important is getting your kids involved in this conversation. So when you are setting limits and when you are telling them why, all of these are questions to ask them. And so have you guys, as parents, noticed that when you try to tell your kids what to do, sometimes they just don't want to be told what to do? That's kind of a thing, right? So when you kind of turn it around, what I like about, I'm pointing here, you guys are looking here. What I like about these questions is that it gives you insight into how they think about it, and it also gives them the responsibility and the privilege of being involved in this conversation. So it's important for us to let them have a voice in it, and it's also important for us to let them feel like they are kind of a little bit in control of it, and they're a little bit more receptive to it that way. So the questions are, why do you think it's important to only add friends that you know in real life on social media? And listen to their answers. And maybe they'll have a really good reason why it's also important to invite strangers in there, and ask them more questions about that. And just kind of let them have a little bit of responsibility and a little bit of control in this situation, because that's going to get through to them if you lecture them, because we know the answers to all of these questions already. We know those. We do. And they know that we know them. But if we lecture them, they stop listening after probably the first minute, if you get that long. You might not get a full minute. And a lot of this is more for the older kids. If you have younger elementary school kids, it's actually really great because you can set these rules right now, and they'll kind of already be used to them as they go along. But for the older kids especially, it's really important to let them have their voice. So asking if they know how to change their privacy settings on these things. Some of the things that Carrie shared in these apps, such as the Snapchat, and how they're not actually disappeared. And if you posted something that could lead to, police needing to find it, they can find that. Make sure your kids know these things. So, and make sure that they know how to protect themselves with their privacy settings, because they may not know and they may not realize where all of their information is actually going. Same thing with, do you know how to disable location tagging? Have you ever seen an ad for pop-up ad for personal information. I know I get emails like that all the time that's like, you just won this money, just send me your social security number. And I'm like, no. So we know these things. We know what kind of information is sensitive and could lead to your identity being out there, but our kids don't actually know. So finding out what they know about these things is really important. And then the last part here is I think it's our role right now to force them to have other interests because they do not want to have any interests outside of what their friends are doing. And it's our job to make sure that they do. We want to have well-rounded people. We want to raise up well-rounded people. I always like to think of it as with the balance, input versus output. So when you have your screens and your phones and your internet and all of that is all input. Even, being at school all day, that is input. They're learning, they're receiving, they're taking everything in. So we need to make sure that they balance that with output. So that would be getting their physical energy out. That would be getting their creative energy out. That would be getting their thoughts and their feelings out. So there's a lot of different activities that we can do that fill that need to have output. So it's that balance. So they're having all of this input. We need to make sure that we force them, in some ways, to get this stuff out. So if it's being outside, if it's running, if it's drawing or painting or writing something or singing or dancing, all of these things are different things that they can do as output. And then helping them explore too. So maybe they haven't found something that they actually enjoy yet. So help them explore that. Look around for what, there's all sorts of free things going on. We have a lot of county parks. We have a lot of library services. Lots of things that are free in our communities that we can take advantage of, that we can help our kids explore different interests. Yes?
Just want to say an idea.
Uh-huh.
That's, if your kids like to use social media and they want to do that, even they don't want to play outside or do anything else, you can model this thing with you thinking of their hobby and making a page on Facebook. She loves using Facebook.
Okay.
So you help her make a page on Facebook about her cooking or doing desserts.
Yes.
So this way she thinks about using this social media in a good way.
Yeah.
From her child, then she'll be bigger and thinking, oh, I can use it in a creative way, not just just chatting with my friends or something.
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that kind of leads us right into the next one. So in your packet there, how much time are None, okay. In your packet there is a calendar that we handed out to you, and it is blank. And the purpose of that calendar was for you to fill it in with activities that you can do with your children, or did they not get? Okay, yes. Okay, so we'll pass those around. It's a blank calendar, and so the idea is that you can every day throughout the month pick something new to explore with your kids to kind of develop whatever these other interests are. So if it's, cooking something and then putting it on your cooking Facebook page, or we have actually a lot of giveaways that have really fun things for you guys to do as families too. And so, getting outside and playing together, and thankfully the weather is finally nice enough for us to do that again. That makes it so much easier for us as parents. And then, so I think as we finish up, if you guys just want to maybe kind of brainstorm some ideas and fill it in on your own, before we go, I want to make sure that we have time for this last 2 pages. So we have links on here. This is in your packet. The NetSmarts page, like I said before, you have one handout from there that is Internet Safety Rules. They have a lot of resources such as that help you have these conversations with your kids and help you learn more as parents. The next one, Absolutely April, is where the pictures of all of those apps came from. That page has some photo images of how you can set your controls, so that's kind of helpful too when you're going through your phone to see pictures of which buttons to click on. So that's helpful too. The third one there is parental controls for cell phones. That one also walks you through the different parental controls. And then the last one is apps that you can download outside of your phone service providers. Apps that you can download to also monitor your kids' usage. I know I have one on my phone that tells me how many hours I've been on my phone all day, so I can be mindful of what I'm doing and make sure that I'm modeling that stuff for my kids as well. So here's our phone number. If you have any further questions after tonight, you are welcome to give us a call, and we will help you guys figure this out. We are all figuring it out together. Like I said, there is no precedent for it at this point, so we are all working together and finding out where this lands for us. And we do have.
The bigger problem I have is the screen addiction. There's no more people or people interaction.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be popular through apps, and it doesn't. It's like make believe.
Yeah.
I understand that. You can't go on a job interview and text your answer to the guy across from you.
Right. Yeah. So they are losing their social skills. Yes.
Talking now.
Yes.
That's a huge problem. Why the lawmakers don't do anything, or make phones if they're only 21 or 18, but
Yeah.
maybe too much money in the industry, they're making much. I don't understand.
Yes. Well, the industry, their goals are to make money, right? And their businesses and their goals are to make money. So this is where it is our job as parents and as communities to say, you have to go outside and make sure that your neighbors are sending their kids outside so they have something to do. You know, we have to work together as teams of parents to solve this.
I had a question.
Yeah.
The problem I have with the kid that we allowed to have have a cell phone.
Uh-huh.
Our resolution was just to take everything and lock it away.
Uh-huh.
Had not even considered that they could get phones from their friends and all of that.
Mhm.
And then my kid is slightly smart. He figured out how to wipe his phone so that it took off all of the monitoring software.
Uh-huh.
Do you guys regularly send out resources for parents like me? Because I don't know what to do.
Yep. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I can kind of answer that. We, of course, like social media, so we have a Facebook page, Wayne Youth and Family Services, so you could find that, and we very frequently will post resources about that. Definitely we're going to be keeping up on new social media trends, so you can always follow us on Facebook and get some more information and stuff like that. If you feel like the social media usage really is a huge problem, you know, give us a call, and we'll have been more than welcome to sit down with you. More than happy to sit down with you.
I'm like, who taught me that? Like, so when they're in class and somebody saying, hey, you wipe your phone and reset it to factory settings so that your parents.
It's very easy for them to do. It's like a two-step process. Yeah.
My concern is I am aware of all of those social media sites, but not all the one you gave me tonight. However, when they are literally blocking you as a parent to have access to their social media.
Right.
So how do we?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where you would have to actually ask for their phone and say you need, you know, and then you'd have to go into their account and unblock you. Or, I mean, you know, take the phone. Yeah, there's passcodes, you know, your thumbprint now can open it. And if they're not willing, if they're blocking you, that is a red flag that they're doing something inappropriate on social media. Absolutely, 100%.
We need to move along.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience, and I hope you got some, yeah, thank you all for coming out tonight. We do have lots